I do. Yep, now I do. So we're good to go. Hopefully you could hear the start of that. All right, so yesterday we did a prep video, and in that prep video, I prepared the pork and the chicken. The chicken's gonna go in the mole enchiladas that we're making. The pork I cooked, separated, and then we have green chili pork, and then we also have carne adovada, which is a New Mexican style dish. I'll also be making stuffed poblano chilies with pinto beans, a little bit of Greek yogurt, and some cheese added in. You could add in a protein if you wanted to make that an entire dish. I am making rice, my cilantro lime rice, and today we're using cauliflower rice. So we'll give that a go. And then, of course, the mole enchiladas. And then I'll be making some live guacamole or some fresh guacamole, and I'll be doing it here. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to move right in here. And we are going to start with our cauliflower rice so we get it going. So I've got a little bit of bacon. As you know, I use pasture-raised organic bacon. We're going to get that started over here on about medium. So we'll get that melted down, and then we'll be adding in some onion, the rice, and then cilantro, and then I have lime juice that I'll be adding in. So that is getting that started. All right, then as that is melting and getting ready to go, I'm also going to be doing refried beans. I don't know if I mentioned that. Yesterday in the prep video, I got the beans all ready. I soaked them for 8 hours, cooked them in the Instapot. I soaked them with baking soda, which removes a lot of the lectins. And if you have digestive issues with any of that type stuff like legumes or certain vegetables, that can help a lot with that. So let's get our rice going here. It's pretty well melted down. Just going to pour in some onion. I just measured a little bit of it out. Don't want to overwhelm the rice with that, so we'll let that cook for just a few little minutes. And then over here, I'm going to get the beans ready to stuff the poblano peppers. So this is the other batch of the beans that I cooked yesterday. I'm just going to mix those in with a little bit of Greek yogurt. Let me pull you right over here so you can see that a little better than you can see me, because that's the more important thing. We'll put that in there. Just going to stir that around. Get that mixed in really good. And then I roasted the poblano chili peppers. Now, you'll see them in the store often called pasilla. It's basically the same thing. Different. It's kind of like zucchini and Italian squash. Different produce sections label them differently. So we're just going to mix that all up. Now, again, you could do some different things with this for your chilies. I'm going to keep this fairly simple. And honestly, I really wouldn't even need to be doing the pinto beans, the refried beans. I just wanted to for part of my whole Mexican thing. But we're going to have plenty of food. And this year, it's just the three of us, my husband, myself, and my daughter. And so then we're just going to kind of, I call these stuffed. You can use an entire pepper. Now, because this is more of an appetizer type of dish, I am not doing them completely stuffed. I separated these into halves because I know that a full entire pepper would be too much with all the rest of the dinner food. So I'm just sliding that in there. And then we'll stuff this one as well, or rather coat it. It's almost like, we'll call it a poblano, not a quesadilla, a tostada. That's what we'll call it. And then we're going to take just a little bit of our Mexican cojita, queso, or cheese, which I like to buy. I live in the Southwest in Scottsdale, so it's not difficult to find this. And then I'm just going to lightly coat these with cheese. Now, it is Christmas Eve as I'm doing this, and this is for Christmas Day. So I am not going to be baking these, but these are essentially ready to go and pop in the oven. So we will set those aside and come back to our rice that's cooking right over here. All right, so here we have our onion that's getting good. We're going to go ahead and add in the cauliflower rice. Now, as I have mentioned before, but you might be new to my show, I love to use, you just almost can't beat the trade or the Costco organic riced cauliflower. It's in pre-packages, and seriously, it's amazing the price on that. I'm going to lightly season that with some salt, a little bit of fresh pepper, and then later I will be adding in the cilantro and a little bit of lime juice. So we'll just stir that all around and get that cooking. And then we're going to come over and make our mole chicken enchiladas, which are kind of the star of the show. Now, I had my first mole. I had never heard of that. I believe it's from the Mexico City region, but don't quote me on that. I had my first mole enchiladas in Chandler, Arizona, years ago, and absolutely fell in love with it. Then moved to California and spent a lot of time trying to find it. It's not that easy, or at least it wasn't that easy to find mole sauce. But the mole sauce, which I did in my prep video, is essentially you cook the chicken, you add some orange juice to it, and mix all that together with the broth. Then you separate out the chicken, which I've done right here. This is my chicken that I cooked in the crock pot yesterday, strained off the juice and the orange juice and the broth, and then added it in with my homemade mole sauce that's right in here, which is chili peppers and garlic and pumpkin seeds, almonds, all kinds of spices, and then, of course, chocolate and cinnamon are the super ingredients that we add to that. So what we're going to do here, I am largely gluten-free. I'm not a purist because I don't have celiac, but I prefer to eat gluten-free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pour a tiny bit of the mole sauce in here. This is what we're going to be serving, baking and serving these in. Just a little bit of the mole sauce to coat it on the bottom. Make sure that you can see that good. Just coat that on the bottom. And then I am using the Siete brand, which I'm sad to say, I think it was Pepsi Cola that just bought that company. And I'm not happy about that, but I'm hoping that they'll keep it the way it needs to be. But that's the Siete brand almond flour, gluten-free, non-GMO, paleo, dairy-free, soy-free, vegan tortillas, which I absolutely love. So I'm just going to coat those, the first layer. And you don't have to flip it over, but I just kind of do. And then we're going to just add in our chicken. So I'm just going to use my fingers for that because it's a little easier. And you just want to get a good amount of the chicken in there. And then I'm going to coat it with a little bit of cheese. I used to pack on the cheese, and now I just go a little lighter. And I do find that I tend to enjoy it a little better. And then I'm just going to pour a little bit more of the mole sauce on there. Now, I don't worry about evening it out too much because honestly, as it starts melting and cooking, it knows what to do and it spreads itself around. It's thickened up just a little bit because it's cooled. I cooked that earlier today. And then the same thing, I'm just going to put in 2 tortillas, okay? A little bit more of the chicken. And the nice thing is I'm going to have a little bit of sauce left over to freeze. I like to make a big batch of the mole sauce because if you watch my prep video and you see what's in it, it freaks most people out when they first have a look at it because there's so many spices in it. But once you realize it's just more than anything, it's just measuring out spices, it makes that part of it easy. So again, just a little bit more cheese on that. A little bit more mole sauce. And just like the poblanos, we're eating this tomorrow, so I won't be baking this until tomorrow. But the nice thing is all of this stuff is going to go in the oven at about 350 degrees. Same thing, cooks about the same amount of time because all it really is warming it up. And boom, we will be eating. All right, I'm going to leave you for a sec. Come over here and stir my rice, which is doing just great. It's starting to get browned, and I'll show it to you here in a moment. We'll finish this off. Now, this time we're going to top it with the mole sauce. Kind of, this time I'll make it a little more even and pretty, spreading it out. And then we coat it with cheese, and then boom, that part of it is ready to go. And again, try not to get too overboard with the cheese. All right. Wash my hands off here with my little towel. And let's move back over here and see how our cauliflower rice is doing. It's doing great. So just stir it around just a tiny bit more. And while it's getting ready, I'm going to show you the rest of what I already prepped for, which is, so the chicken mole enchiladas are kind of the star, but then I mentioned the pork. So I did use a boneless pork, and this is with the hatch green chili. So this simmered in the crock pot all day with some onions and the hatch green chili and the pork and just the broth from the pork. So tomorrow I will warm this up, and then of course I will serve it with traditional tortillas for anyone who wants that. And then I mentioned the carne adovada, which is the other part of the pork with the adovado sauce. Now, what I used yesterday was a can of these chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. Now, I will tell you, the thing that I don't love about these is that they have canola oil in them. And I went to the store yesterday afternoon and looked, and I could not find any that didn't have either canola or soybean oil. So I actually went in and found a homemade recipe for this, and I'm going to be doing another video where I actually make the recipe much like I did the mole sauce, because you can actually buy mole sauce in the store. So if you want a fabulous dinner and you don't want to go through all the making of the homemade part of it, you can buy the mole sauce. Again, like anything, check the labels. Try not to get any of the bad boys like seed oils or high fructose corn syrup or artificial sweeteners, natural flavorings, and food dyes and colorings. Those are the things we most want to avoid. So again, the carne adovado's here. It's basically the same thing. I very slow cook the pork so that it literally falls apart. I open this up. I blend it really quickly in my Ninja Bullet, and then I pour it in there and let it simmer for about another 2 hours. Tomorrow I'll just warm it up, and it'll be great. And I will probably do the exact same thing. I will simply pour this and the green chili either in a pan like this or on the stovetop just to warm it up, and it'll be ready to roll. So those are my accompaniments. So we have our poblano chilies, we have our carne adovada, we have our cauliflower rice cooking, and we also have the green chili pork, and then we'll be doing the refried beans. I've still got to do that and make some fresh guacamole. So our rice is coming along. Here's for our refried beans. As soon as the rice is done, we'll be transferring that over and making the beans in that pot. So now my next step is to make the guacamole. And the thing I love about this, because I've prepped so much of this already, it's super simple to get up on Christmas. If you watched my video on Christmas breakfast, I've already made my Christmas breakfast, so I don't have to cook tomorrow. I can just literally enjoy the entire day and just kind of slow and go and get things out and get them ready and be great to go and not feel that rush and that huge anticipation. One other thing that I will be doing is I will be slicing up some fresh cabbage, some organic fresh red/purple cabbage for a little bit of roughage. Sometimes I'll make just a citrusy cilantro dressing to go with it, since it is a Mexican fiesta type meal. But this adds a little crunch. It's great on top of the mole enchiladas. It's great underneath any of it. It's just a nice accompaniment and gives you a little bit of roughage and a little bit of fiber in there. Okay, so moving on to the guacamole. So I have everything pretty much prepared. Don't shun me for my messy kitchen here. All right, so I have my cilantro, which I won't be using all of this, so I'm going to set some of this aside. But I have my avocado already peeled up. So I'm just going to squeeze that out. These are nice, ripe avocados. And then I saved the seeds because, again, this is the day before, and that's kind of a secret with your guacamole is to save the seeds. And I'll be putting fresh lime juice in here. And those items together, along with the seeds, stop it from turning brown or discoloring, which it can do, which is basically just the air hitting it. But if you can avoid that and keep it looking fresh and pretty. And I will tell you, sometimes when you make it ahead, the very top layer will get that brownish look. You can just kind of scoop that off and you'll find that you are good to go. Picking out there's that other seed. All right, so that's all the stuff we're going to work with. Let me wash my hands here quickly, and then we will mash up that guacamole. We'll be adding in just a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and I'm going to add in some ground garlic. A lot of times I will do fresh garlic, but again, I am a 80-20 girl, and I don't have that prepped for this, so we'll add in a little bit of garlic powder. So I just take my little avocado smasher, and I'm just going to smash that down with the cilantro in it. So getting all that ready. I have a spoon here to kind of help me. I'm not quite as fabulous looking as when they come to your table at a fun Mexican restaurant and make you that good guacamole fresh. But I promise you, this is going to taste just as good. Now, sometimes I add a little bit of salsa to it. I'm not going to today. We're just going to make it with fresh lime juice and see how that goes. So I pre-squozed my lime. I'm just going to add a little tiny bit in. You can always add more, but the thing with lime is you can't take it away. So that was probably about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons. This is the equivalent of 2 limes, so it was about half a cup. So it's about a quarter of a cup per lime. And again, depending on your lime, because sometimes they are ultra juicy, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So hopefully you can see that. All right, so we have that all mixed up. I'm going to just lightly add just a coating of salt, just a coating of garlic, not a whole lot, because like anything, you can add more, but you can't take it away, and a little sprinkle of the pepper. Let that kind of mix in. We'll do a little taste test. I'm over here getting the last of my cauliflower rice ready and stirring it up just a tad. Then we'll be ready to put in the cilantro and the lime and then cook the refried beans. All right, so let's give it the old taste test here and see how we did. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now we can simply put this into a small bowl. Wasn't quite prepared with the bowl, but we'll scoop all of this into the bowl, add in those seeds, and then I'll cover it, and it'll be good to go, and it'll be perfect tomorrow for dinner. So there's that. We're just going to lightly push those into there, and there is our guacamole. Now, you could serve this as an appetizer, obviously with tortilla chips. I mentioned those siete almond flour tortilla chips that I use. I have actually toasted those before, and they make a fantastic chips that you can use also, so don't be afraid to do that. All right, coming back over here, we're going to finish up our cauliflower rice. Just thought my camera was about to fall off. That would not be good. All right, so here we have the rice. We're going to add in the cilantro and stir it around so that it begins to squish down just a little tiny bit. Then I'm going to add the lime juice. We'll let it finish off, and then we will be putting it in here and then moving forward with the refried beans. So again, just a little bit of the lime juice. This is basically a tablespoon. I'm just going to coat that good. And if you wanted to serve margaritas or something like that, now you can use the rest of this lime juice for your margaritas. So again, with a Mexican fiesta, you can never have too much lime, never have too much guacamole, never have too much of any of that. So let's do another little taste test of the rice. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. All right, let's move it over into this pan or this bowl. Again, I could just microwave and reheat this. I don't love the microwave for reheating a lot of things. I feel like I'll probably just throw this back in a skillet tomorrow. There's something about giving it that fresh, almost smokiness of the stovetop piece of it. This is probably not the best one. I probably should have used a different, you know me, I don't like to clean up. Less cleanup is more. So I try to use the same pans for a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. But in this case, especially going live, I probably should not have. But again, because we're going to be eating all this and all this cooks down, I'm not going to take it out of here for the refried beans. All right, starting this on low, again, I'm using my bacon drippings. Get that all melted down. Put my olive oil out of the way over here. Getting that all melted down, and I've got another masher that I can use. Going to add in, again, just a little bit of garlic and a little bit of onion to season those beans. Let those cook for about a minute. That's roughly a minute, don't you think? Now I'm going to add in the beans. And again, I'm not making a whole ton of the beans, although I might have. Do I have just a little bit left from my poblanos? I do. So I'm going to go ahead and, now you notice the yogurt, I used Greek yogurt, is added in there. But guess what? I'm adding that anyway. You can see just a little tiny bit there. I'm adding that anyway to the refried beans. So we will get that stirred up. Now, again, these beans were cooked in the Instapot, so they are soft and basically ready to go. All I'm doing at this point is just reheating them to refry them. And in most cases, this part, honestly, I would have done on Christmas Day. Some of the little things, I probably would have made the cauliflower rice, the refried beans, I would have made those actually on the day of. But because we're doing this to show you some ideas for your Christmas feast, we're doing it like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my cilantro to get that moved down. And then add in that little dollop of yogurt that I stashed back for the beans. Now, these have already been pre-salted and pre-seasoned, so I don't need to do any of that. And if you notice with the poblano chilies that I made, I didn't season those either because when I cooked the beans in the Instapot, I added salt, pepper, and cumin to that. And that's, again, we've got a total flavorful delight with this Mexican fiesta. So don't need to do a whole ton of extra seasoning because I don't want to get overwhelmed with the tastes and the flavors and too much of it. I guess too much of dopamine hit to your taste buds might not be the best thing. I don't know. But then on the other hand, can you get too much of a food dopamine hit? Probably not. So mashing those just a little tiny bit more. We'll give them the old taste test, and then those will just cool and go back into that container that I emptied the beans out of. Oh, delightful, delightful. All right, I believe that's everything. Let me check my list here. I feel like I'm a short order cook. We did the rice, we did the enchiladas, the poblano, made the guacamole. I showed you the green chili pork and the carne adovada pork. We made the refried beans, showed you the tortillas and cabbage for a topping. So there you have it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I do these cooking shows every week, and I also have an entire holiday Christmas series that you can go back and look in my playlist over at Lower Toxic Life, and I will be uploading the eggnog rum pound cake, the Festiva eggnog rum pound cake that I have right here that we made. It's got the little mountaintop peaks, snow-covered peaks. So that will be on the channel here shortly, along with my Christmas breakfast is there and a whole lot of other things. So thanks for joining in. I appreciate you. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the day, enjoy the festivities, and I will see you next week on our next live show. Thanks again. Oh, and grab my guide over at lowertoxiclife.com if you want these recipes, if you want my grocery list, shopping labels, how to read labels, how to understand ingredients, and if you go to recipes.lowertoxiclife.com, you can type in the search bar mole, for instance, and you'll find all the recipes for this meal that we made today.